Oh, no, it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Oh, never mind, I wasn't
I
getting
was
any
gonna
sound.
say, oh, yeah, so it's not.
I am alright. It's too bad. Oh, you should see me on my office. I throw it in the ocean 3 times a day. Okay, actually, your ass is going in the ocean, right off the ferry.
Yeah, is the mic open?
Yep, the mic's on.
There you go. Okay, it's 6:30 on August 25th, and this is a joint meeting with the Planning Board and the Nahant Board of Selectmen. And I hereby call this meeting to order. Selectmen have a quorum, and would the Planning Board like to call theirs to order?
Yes, I'd like to call the meeting to order after we do the roll call. Casey Carey. Absent. Michael Cullinan. Here, Sheila Hamilton
Is here.
here. Tom Hamilton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Rob Steinberg. Viviano. Absent, so we do not have a quorum.
Okay, we can proceed anyway. So I'd like to continue to talk about sidewalks and thoughts as far as sidewalks. But it might be nice to start off with a little bit of a summary of what brings us to where we are. And I think the best person that's able to do that in this room would be Peter Barba. He stood tall as far as the Coast Guard Housing Committee. How many years was that, Peter?
3 or 4. I don't know, it was interrupted by COVID, so.
Okay, well, it all counts. Anyway, yeah, I think he could give us a nice overview of how we got to where we are with respect to the sidewalk, which is our main focus, I believe. And then we can jump in.
All right. What I'm going to say is based on my memory and of things that I'll start with the basically the committee and where we got to, which was town meeting 2021. And essentially, once town meeting was over, our directive was pretty much over in the fact that we were asked to make a recommendation at town meeting for what would happen, or a proposal on what should happen with the Coast Guard houses. So we did that presentation. Yes, we understood at that time that there was some discrepancies along Castle Road with relation with boundaries, easements. There was questions. There was a 6-foot question, an 8-foot question, a 17-foot question. At the end of the day, there was a lot of confusion and a lot of difficulty in, what was the right answer. Part of it was pretty much resolved with the fact that we were buying a piece of property from the government. We owned the street. Somewhere in the middle was 6 to 17 feet of easements or questionable territory. Once we owned all of that real estate, all of the easements went away because the town, as Dan explained last week, couldn't give itself an easement. We just, why would we have an easement? There was, after that, at some point, there was something brought up about the Essex County, some easement or some piece of property or strip that they owned. I'll be honest, I remember it, but I don't ever remember anything coming of it, because I believe that, I think Dan had gotten a confirmation or a confirmatory deed.
Right, from the federal.
To clarify things. I don't know, I think that took care of part of it, and the other part of it, I know that Tony Barletta had done some research into all of that. I could comfortably say, I don't think that Dan and Tony would have sold pieces of property and given away real estate that wasn't ours. So I think I felt pretty comfortable with what was happening. Fast forward to, I know that there was an A&R done. Fast forward to this easement, 5-year easement for the sidewalks. As I understand it, had several conversations with Tony about it. The 5-foot easement was not for the new property owners for long-term utility access. If you live on a regular street and you have telephone poles outside and you have sewer in the street and you have direct access, you don't need an easement. That's all taken care of by current law and current, whether you know it or not, you own the pipe from the water pipe from your house to the valve. If it breaks from the valve to the pipe, you fix it. Same with electricity, it's the point of attachment to your house and so on. The 5-foot easement, as it was explained to me, was for the town to retain that strip of property where the sidewalk was. It was to allow all the residents on that street to do what they had to do, disrupt the street, do all their tie-ins, and it would still allow the town to have a sidewalk. Once the work was complete, the sidewalk, again, as I understand it, the sidewalk would have gone into a section of the street. And after 5 years, the easement goes away. That allowed the town to retain, again, that sidewalk for people to use while the construction was going on. The 5-year was selected because that was the estimated time that it's going to take for all of the housing work to be complete and all of the street work to be complete. And then put that sidewalk in. I don't know.
So the.
Am I missing something?
No, I think, I mean, I appreciate that. And when you say to put the sidewalk in, you mean the sidewalk was going to be put back where it was, or it was going to be put down at the street?
It was going to be moved to the street, and I had the assumption that it was gonna be right where the curb is now. They would just go 3 feet into the road, so the road would narrow by roughly 3 to 4 feet. Based on the width of a sidewalk and the curb that goes with it. And that was my understanding through the whole process that, they were gonna retain that. And one of the reasons that that property was kind of left with the new or given to the new owners was because there was difficulty in getting all of the proper frontages and all of the proper square footages, so that we ended up with 10,000 square foot lots and the proper frontage on the street. There was a lot of talk that went into making sure that we got 10,000 square foot lots and the proper frontage, because if we had any variances, then buyers, and this we got from our real estate agents. I had spoken to at least 3 real estate agents, but I did see that there's actually one, I think, on the line right now, where if we had any encumbrances of, you gotta go in front of the zoning board to be able to build a house there, then that reduces the overall cost of that piece of real estate, and it may prevent a sale. And we were hoping to get sales sooner rather than later because our note was coming to.
Okay, I have one question, and then I'd like to open it to others if they would want the question. Are you okay with that? Okay, my one question is, was there ever consideration as far as all of the town land that's in back of those lots and possibly pushing things back a little bit to create some more space?
It's funny because I went back and looked through the presentation we did on April 1st. And there is a slide, and I can't remember if we actually, there is a video, and I didn't go through and look at the video, the whole video, so I don't remember if we showed it. I think we did, but it's one of these maps. And behind the houses on Goddard and the ones on Castle Road, there is a big highlighted like yellow bar of real estate that theoretically it's part of their property, but it's a steep drop off and it's pretty much unusable.
So you didn't want to include
That
that?
was,
Be-
that if I'm, I believe that's included. That we used all of that.
You used all of that,
We used all.
but you could have gone a little bit further, could you not?
Geez, I don't even think we thought
Oh,
of
no.
going, yeah, instead of going a couple of feet this way, we probably could have taken more.
Another 5 feet that, down the back?
Absolutely, probably could have.
All right, just,
We could have.
yeah, okay, all right. Anyone else with a question for Peter?
I have several questions, but I don't know that they're for, Pete.
They're not for me, then, but I'll answer, I mean, again, it's been several years.
Yes,
I'm not gonna say I got the best memory in the world, but I ate, drank and slept that Coast Guard
well,
committee for.
you've obviously been through the whole process, so I guess my question is for you, probably, and for Dan as well. I've been looking at all, I was not involved in this at all, I'm coming new to this. I've been looking at a lot of documents since way back in 1941, when Castle Road was widened, et cetera. And every one of these documents, whether it was at that time establishing it, that deed says that the roadway and sidewalk easement, 17 feet wide, will run with the land, will be there in perpetuity. When I look at the documents where we sold the land to the GSA, it says the same thing. When we bought it back, the GSA conveyed it to us with all the easements to run with the land. So I don't understand how anything disappeared at all. It would seem to me a sidewalk and roadway easement would still be there today unless somebody has taken some legal step to change that. That's my first question.
I don't think Dan saw anything like that.
No, I wasn't involved in that, but I
Okay.
have gone back to Tony Cappucciotti from Hayes, and he confirmed that 5 different entities looked at this, and they all came,
5 what?
different entities looked at this, and they all came up with the same conclusion. That is that the 1941 layout, 33.5 is the appropriate width of Castle Road. When I say appropriate entities, I mean Stantec, Hayes Engineering, the federal government, there was another one, I'm forgetting at the moment. All came up with the same conclusion, that the 41 layout is 33 feet wide. And speaking further to Tony, he's looked at the the taking you're looking at, and that was not new to him. He knew about that. And his memory was it wasn't valid because I think the state was trying to take take land from the federal government, which can't happen. We can't take land from the federal government like they can from us. So he recognized that there was that vote you mentioned, but it wasn't valid. It was never validated. So that was his take on it.
Did the
And,
federal government ever dispute that, though, the taking?
not that I know of, not that I know of. I don't know where it came down, but
So wouldn't they have to dispute that to invalidate it?
I don't know. I'm not gonna guess.
Can I ask you a question? What was that easement for?
It was apparently Castle Road wasn't wide enough, or it wasn't appropriate for the public way. You know better than I would, I'm sure.
It was labeled as a roadway and sidewalks easement. What the history behind putting it in there, I don't know.
Because I mean, again, as Dan stated last meeting, the town can't grant itself an easement, or the town can't have an easement against itself. So even back then, if the town owned the property, I can't see where that would there be an easement. We may have had to grant an easement to the government or the government back to the town of Nahant, but once the town of Nahant owned the entire footprint of the real estate, any easements would go away because we can't give ourselves an easement.
Well, that's the part I don't see why it would go away if in fact we bought it back from the GSA and they said easements would run with the land. That means it goes with the land, not that it has to be established. It's in fact there, it exists.
It's
as a-
there, but legally, I'm not a lawyer, legally, you can't have, the town of Nahant can't have an easement on its own property for itself.
Well, it could have retained an easement. I think
So
that's,
to retain these, there's no reason to have an easement. So I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm
I
just.
think you're doing a good job.
But there, I mean, there was a decision not to retain the easement, I think is
Yes, there was and I believe there's legal validity to that.
And that's a formal decision documented somewhere?
I can just read from an email from the lawyer who handled the sale of lots. Before the town sold the lots, Tony and I discussed whether the town should reserve a permanent sidewalk easement, which would include the right to construct the sidewalk, or just a temporary construction easement. The town, Tony / select board, question mark, decided to reserve the construction easement only because the town did not want the owners haggling over the price,
Which goes back to what Peter just said.
and that the town would obtain permanent sidewalk easements later.
And that's Amy Questle from Copeland Page, that's not me. So it's her-
No, I think that's, I'm sure, and
Sure.
Sure,
That's
Everett.
right.
No, it's another attorney.
Sure,
One of the
and
other minions over there.
Sure, and Everett from,
That's the opinion of,
so there was at least some discussion that it was the marketability of the parcels.
Just the same discussion that was happening in the.
Yeah, so this is in 2024, though, after a lot of decisions were made. But there was also discussion about obtaining the permanent sidewalk easements later. So I think that's where we find ourselves.
so it was deemed appropriate to let it lapse, even though the most recent transaction with the GSA said it would run with the land, and then somebody decided it was practical to
Did it lapse or does it just go away because the town got the land back?
what does run with the land mean in a transaction, a legal transaction, if it disappears? According to the owner, I mean, we had the federal government that recognized it, they did due diligence, presumably we did due diligence when we were buying it back.
And so that would be a case, if for that to run with the land, then we would be granting an easement to ourselves.
Patches.
An easement that.
There was a potential discussion that it would be restored at some time, and that's confusing.
Can I just, Patrick, what was the date on that?
The email,
Yeah.
hold on a second. This was from December 2025.
Okay, so, because I've got an email here from May the 2nd, 2020, that outlines to Tony and Dan that there's an issue, and the memo came from Tony Capichetti at Hayes, outlining all these issues that had to be addressed. And one was the deed 57, which was picked up on the earlier Hancock drawing. But it talks about having a 50-foot wide easement on Castle Road. That was a problem that had to be addressed, so. Took 4 years or 5 years to sort that out.
no, the email that Pat is reading from is one that I asked when I started, when you had approached me a while ago about all of this. And I was just new into my role as town administrator, and I was not aware of all of this. I wrote to Sharon to get background, and that's what that email is.
Yeah.
So that's why it's from December. That was right after I was appointed as town administrator.
And you and I had a conversation that led up to that.
Yes,
I was part of that also.
yeah. So I was trying to understand the background of what happened. I reached out to Sharon, I reached out to Dan, but that's what that email is from.
Right. I mean, I bring it up because it obviously speaks to my view that the sidewalk easement should be restored in some fashion. Because I think right now we've given up 3 feet of not just the sidewalk, but also from the curb into the street, approximately 2 or 3 feet. So it's to rebuild the sidewalk within that, the confines of that would put the curb 7 or 8 feet into the middle of Castle Road, which I don't view as a viable configuration. Whether the sidewalk be built 2 or 3 feet into Castle Road, slight narrowing, I think that's reasonable to discuss. Either way, it would require taking an easement.
Tom, what was that date of that email you mentioned?
I've got a whole litany of them here,
Well, the one
but
you just read,
when was it from?
The
2020s.
May something,
May the 3rd, 2020
May 3rd.
was one that was from Peter Barba actually saying that we couldn't have more than 3 members. I sent one on the same day telling everybody we were having a meeting to discuss these issues, and he said we should only have 2 people go. But then there's another one that looks like it's from when Tony got his boss in.
Tony who,
Capuccetti.
thank you.
There's another one on. He got his boss involved when that 40-foot issue or the 50-foot issue came up. Wanted to make sure they was doing it correct, so. He actually called for a meeting in his office. That was on March the 11th, 2020. I have a whole litany of stuff. But I took the time to dig through all my emails.
Go ahead.
Okay.
The other issue I want to point out
okay.
is that the deed, one of the deeds that I've seen says that the town is taking those lands that they were retaining as easements. So I don't understand why the deed would say those are easements. It seems like whoever did the deeds copied from the wrong part of the town meeting.
So I did a little bit of looking at this, the Essex County versus the town. I think my understanding of the history of the Essex County, now essentially defunct Essex County, is that all the land that they owned was transferred to the state. However, local roads would have been transferred to the municipalities. So I mean, so at some point, the town, it seems that like the town owned the 50-foot right of way up until the purchase of the Coast Guard housing.
Yes.
I have a question. There are 2 drawings over there. The farthest one from this table was the drawing that is the basis of the A&R. The second one is almost the same drawing, but it has these changes that we're talking about. That's the drawing that's identified on all of the deeds to all of the lots that were sold. My question is there anything that supersedes that? As far as what is the description of where in the street ends, where on the property that was sold is the property line, where will the sidewalk go if it's restored? Or is that the actual official drawing as of today with dimensions that could be cited?
That's the one you said is on file with Essex County?
Oh, and yes, it is.
It has, yeah, Essex County Registry of Deeds. That's what they have on file as.
They have that as a plan. They also have it as a reference in every single one of the quitclaim deeds to buy the property.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. You're talking about the plan from 2024.
Yes,
Okay, so what's your question again?
my question is, does that represent the latest legal understanding of where the street ends? Where
Yes, Castle Road, absolutely. It's the same one. It's still the 1941 layout. It's the same one as the ANR and 2024. It's the same layout.
No, they're not.
That's definitely not
Actually.
I'm looking right at it.
It's
So,
definitely not true.
Show me the
No,
differences.
it's not.
The road was narrowed, the right of way was narrowed by 17 feet.
There,
The hammerhead
no,
configuration.
The ANR has a 1941 layout, and so does a 24 plan. They're the same layout. Where do you see 17?
The easement changed.
Well, the town owned
No,
the right of
no,
way.
you're asking about the plans, so we're sticking with the plans.
The
The
easement,
road is the same. I'm talking about Castle Road, not Goddard, just spoken on Castle.
Yeah.
It's the same layout, so I don't understand how you think there is any difference.
Well, it's laid out with 50-foot right of way in the 2022 plan.
Well, let's look at the 2022 plan. Now you mean the ANR?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking right at it. I don't know which one is up there. It says right here, 33 feet wide.
And then it shows a 17-foot easement, road and sidewalk easement.
Talk about the easement. There was no easement. that was some sort of mistake or some issue.
That
Maybe it
was-
was a proposal.
No, it wasn't a mistake.
Okay,
Go ahead,
talking
Dan.
to Tony about that. He's the one that came up with this plan and his people. But I talked to Tony about that and there was no easement there. Even if there was, the layout of the road is still 33 feet wide. The same road you see in the 24 plan. Same road, exactly. I
33.
appreciate there's an easement depicted there. But I think that was the proposal. In any case.
That's
has-
what was approved by the planning board.
No.
And what my signature.
No. The A&R has no jurisdiction over sidewalks, zero, none.
It has jurisdiction over the roads, and if the roads change, it's not an A&R
It has jurisdiction over frontage when it comes to the.
on a
A&R.
road.
Exactly right. Frontage doesn't change. It's still frontage. Whether it's 33 feet wide or 50 feet wide, the frontage is the same,
You can't
irrelevant.
move
The
a
frontage
road on
is
an
the frontage is the
A&R.
same.
You can't move an existing
And they
road,
didn't move.
and
the
they
existing-
did move the existing
Well,
road.
that's up to you to prove.
It shows on the plan, there's 3
And
feet.
I'm looking at the same plan,
The
you are,
road-
it's still at 41 layout, it's the same, let's just cut to the chase, even if you're right, what do you expect to happen? The property is sold, money's in the bank, it's all done, what do
Absolutely.
you expect to happen?
Absolutely, and houses have been built based on the 2020.
So what do you expect, if you get everything you want, what do you
And
expect to happen?
I think one thing is important to discuss is this is supposed to reflect property rights. It doesn't convey them. So the deed is what matters, right? Because I mean, like that's,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Sure.
the deed is what matters. So the 2024 plan does reflect what was conveyed in the deed. So it has been
I agree.
without an easement for 3 feet of what I would estimate it was 3 feet of the existing Castle Road. So 3 feet into the road has been sold to the buyers.
Well, into the pavement, which is.
Into the
Isn't
pavement.
always, it isn't always.
Okay, paper
Sometimes it's-
road versus
sometimes
physical
it's-
road. The pavement, yeah. So 3 feet of the existing road
That's
has
true.
been sold.
That's true.
You know, and I think to your point, I think that's if we want to cut to the chase and not worry about the process, how we got here, because trying to recount that, we're talking about 7. Well, no, we're talking about a lot. We're talking about 15 years of process to get here.
Well,
Or
15 years.
or 80 if you want to go back to the 40. Yeah, so go ahead,
It's
please.
the 2024 drawing, the second one in, the one that's in the deeds, is the latest official. And I should be able to go over there and somebody could point out to me where the sidewalks are gonna be restored along Castle Road.
No, there are no sidewalks. There are no sidewalks.
Yes, there are.
Okay, where do you see them?
Not in the 2024 plan.
Yeah, there are.
Just the right of,
Is that the construction easement?
Might be a.
No, that's 17 feet wide. The construction easement is
Okay.
17 feet wide. It used to say sidewalks and roadway, now it says temporary construction easement, 17 in both cases. I'm talking about the sidewalks. The sidewalks show on that drawing. They show running along the side of the road, the sidewalk along Castle Road, terminating when Castle Road bends. To Goddard. And it shows up there. It's hard to figure out what the dimension is from that.
It's not a sidewalk.
Pardon me?
that's the right of way.
That's a temporary easement
Oh,
in which we possibly can construct a sidewalk. It's not a sidewalk.
well. So I think we determined that we couldn't reconstruct the sidewalk in the temporary.
If we take it.
Yeah,
In
right,
the future, yeah.
right.
Then we also have the easement to create it.
So that was the,
How can we grant ourselves an easement?
Well, it's not ours anymore. We take an easement from a private property, as we do all the time. Well, I wouldn't say we do, but towns do all the time. Because we no longer own it. We sold it off.
So we think that there is in fact land to restore the sidewalk feature along Castle Road.
For sure, yeah. I mean, that's what the temporary easement was all about. To give us potential to go in there and possibly.
Actually, I'd like to get to that next, but there is land available now per the transactions that have taken place to restore that sidewalk.
We have no right to it. There's land, of course there is, but we have no right to it. yet. If we went and took it, whatever, 4 or 5 feet width, we take that, pay them compensation, and then we already have the right to construct the sidewalk there. But I just, you have the sidewalk, you have constructing the sidewalk, that's the same thing. Right, so we have a right to construct it, but we don't have the right to use as a sidewalk just yet. What the deeds infer, they don't expressly say, 20/20 hindsight. What they infer is that we could in the future, or we may in the future, take a strip of land and then construct a sidewalk on it. But the deeds don't convey that easement, or they didn't reserve the easement.
Take a foot of the lot owner's land.
Dan, can you walk us through what that process would look
The
like?
taking, you know what, that's a Jeff Blake question, I'll be honest with you. It's not a big deal. It's nothing northeastern, nothing at all like that. The taking of property for sidewalks is actually extremely common. So that's not a huge deal. I think
Can I
that's,
ask a quick follow-up question based off what you said? About we can't do anything right now because I'm over in this neighborhood.
We're not in a position to take comments from the general public right now. This is a
Oh, okay,
discussion.
sorry.
Thank you.
so, Yvonne, I don't know. And I'm not gonna hazard a guess. I do know, as much to know is it's not a complicated process. Sidewalks are not a big deal. It's not like the conservation easement up in northeastern. It's not nowhere near anything. And the biggest issue, I mean, sidewalks, everyone can agree is a proper public purpose. That was a sticking point for Northeastern. Northeastern, they know you're not taking this for a proper public purpose, you're taking it for some other reason. Everyone can agree that sidewalks serve a proper public purpose. So that would not even be an issue. It really would come down to how much the property is worth, because the landowner gets the best value of that property. And then determining what that number is the negotiation. It's not part of what can be taken, it's just how much would they pay for it when it comes to sidewalks.
What kind of authorization does the town, and this is something that would have to be voted at a town meeting, correct?
Absolutely.
Is the land envisioned for, well, the only place the sidewalk could go, part of the 17-foot easement? Physically,
So this 17, when you say 17 foot, are you taking that, I understand I understand the difference between 33 and 50, I get that. Is that where you're getting 17 from? Or are you saying 17 feet in the deed on the Castle Road property? Is that why they?
We have
The
one of the
17
maps, it's just the A and R
Well,
subdivision showed that.
Do the deeds you're referring to though, that reserve the temporary easement, is that where you're getting 17 feet from?
no,
No.
from the drawing,
Um,
from the drawing that's referenced in the deed.
20,
Part of the deed, except it's a plan.
There's no meets and bounds in the deed. It only refers to this plan.
yeah.
which deed? Are you looking at the new deeds? from
Plain
The
deed.
new deeds from Castle Road.
When the people bought each lot,
Okay.
that's the deed I'm talking about.
All right, let me take a quick look at the.
Okay. There's a reference to a temporary construction easement 17.10 feet wide.
Yes,
That's the plan. Let's look at the
Yeah.
deed, because you're looking at the deed. Matt.
but the deed is, but the plan is part of the deed. It's cited right in the deed.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to get the facts. Just give me a second, please. Okay, you're right. 17.1.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, of course you can put a sidewalk within 17 feet. Yeah.
So the restored sidewalk, the potential sidewalk is within that 17 feet.
Well, we don't, again, it's just
Physically,
it's a temporary construction easement. We don't have the right to go build an actual sidewalk there. Just give us the ability to possibly do that if we end up taking a certain amount of this. It wouldn't be 17
but
feet.
that's where it would be located, within what shows up as 17 feet of an.
Well, I mean, that's most likely. I say that because you can develop any sort of facts you want, but the likelihood is that it would be within that 17 feet.
But not the entirety of the 7
No.
feet.
Oh,
No, no. I think,
A very small portion.
yeah, if you look at an ADA accessible, it's a 4 feet. 4 feet
It would
is.
just be more room to build it.
Yeah.
With your construction equipment.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think the question is, whether there's any road narrowing at all. If you just start at the existing curb, then you would talk about, you would need
Yeah,
that approximate.
that would not involve road narrowing, because it's within the deeded property, so it wouldn't involve current layout.
Well, no, I mean, so the current deeded property goes 3 feet into the street, so if you
It goes
keep.
into the pavement, not
It
the
goes-
street. I understand,
Okay.
the semantics.
Most people think of the street.
Yeah,
as
well,
the-
that's true,
The
but
street.
that's not, it,
I get there's a legal
there is.
right of way versus the actual, and that's why I thought street would be. The actual.
Okay,
Physical
Be
street.
careful too,
No,
because
that's not.
rights of way, roadways include sidewalks.
Well, I think that's been a point of confusion for a lot of people because the 33 feet that we're talking about includes the sidewalk on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
So it's the sidewalk plus the
Yeah.
curb, plus the lines, plus the pavement. All the way to including the curb on the other side.
okay,
So you lose a few feet with a lot of those things. So I don't want to, yeah, sure. Oh, I did want to finish the thought though, because I think we're talking about 3 feet to the curb and then 4 feet for a sidewalk. That's really the bound of what we're talking about, or if we're going to narrow the pavement, then it's 4 feet plus 1 foot. If we're gonna go, if we're gonna narrow it 3 feet, it's just 4 feet. So it's a question. And it's placed into the expense per square foot of,
okay.
Yeah, Sheila would know that. I would.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to say something, if I may. Yes, okay. In the quick claim deed, the 3 that I checked, and I'm not gonna look at the rest, quoted, grantor hereby reserves a temporary construction easement in, on, or under the portion of the premises known as temporary construction easement, 17.1 feet wide, and the easement area on the plan for purposes of constructing, improving, altering, maintaining, and repairing and replacing sidewalks. So when I look at that drawing, I'm saying somewhere in that drawing, within that 17 feet, then the 17 feet reside with each lot. Yeah, our sidewalks can be constructed and also maintained.
No, they can be constructed, period. They can't, well, it's right now. It's a construction easement, not a sidewalk easement, not the same thing. But I understand the confusion, not the same thing.
Well, I haven't found a definition of a construction easement, but this says that they're there to be able to construct sidewalks.
Right.
In that 17 feet, not on the land somewhere, in the 17 feet, it shows on the drawing.
Your definition, Dan, as far as construction easement, you say that it can be constructed, but it cannot be maintained. That is to say
Well,
that we can put a sidewalk there, but we don't own it, we can't do anything with it.
Well, no, we can't put one there just yet. We have, because we don't have a right to,
What does this mean? This
it's a
is
temporary,
deed.
right? It's not a permanent easement, so it expires at this point.
So we can construct it and we don't, but we didn't.
It would seem kind of silly to do that, right?
Right, well, that's the same question.
My next question
It was the same question I asked.
is if you can't even maintain it,
Well, I think the idea was we would eventually take it if we wanted it.
why was it
Well,
even there?
I do,
That's beyond my lane. I didn't have anything to do with this, but I.
But it's easy to restore.
well, I do have to say there was some confusion amongst the attorneys, so to finish that paragraph with the assumption being that the owners will gladly, but I read up to would obtain the permanent sidewalk easements later, but I go on with the assumption being that the owners would gladly grant the easement once the sidewalk was constructed, as the owners would not want to be responsible for the sidewalk. So there was this concept, and I think this has now been discussed and rejected by this lawyer and yourself.
Yeah.
And, you both agree that that was not either not a good idea or, I mean, I agree, I had the question.
I'm not a lawyer and I don't think it was a good idea.
I'm not a lawyer either, and I don't think it was a good idea, but at least there was some discussion at the time about doing exactly what you just said. Is
I think the theory was you're putting the landowners on notice that this might happen, so they can't say it came out of nowhere in 3 years.
Yeah.
I think that was Sharon's. Yeah, that's a great, that makes sense.
yeah, and I would just want to, I think I don't want to disparage the decisions that were made previous by the board or Tony. I think to facilitate the sale of the lots and we're under a tight deadline to pay back the bond. So there were some issues with selling the lots with the easements that would have, you know, to the point that they would have probably required, they would have made offers based on getting permitting, which would have delayed by many months the sales, which might have put us into, put us into the bond repayment. So we were coming to the finish line on this. I think the town was, and there was a plan, but I think it's not fully realized that there was, we had to design the sidewalks and then, take an easement back at some point. I think there's a question of how much of an easement we actually need and how much we want to spend for that. But personally, my name is on the 2022 A&R. We had 50-foot easement, 50-foot total right of way. I think that was appropriate for a major road. The planning board's own rules and regulations call for 50-foot right of way on major roads, 40-foot on secondary roads. Goddard has been left with a 40-foot right of way. So I don't believe that the 33-foot is ideal by any means. That was reserved for minor roads in the planning board rules and regulations. So that's really not meant for a road serving 300 households as the only means of egress. So I think that I've taken up too much air, I think.
If I can further answer your question about the sidewalks, about the silliness of putting them there and having to pull them back up. If you continue reading in the deed, right after you stopped, what it says is, yeah, we can go put a sidewalk there, but we've got to restore the land in the condition it was before we started the work. It says right there at the end of the.
Yes, it does.
So it does it right there. We can't keep them unless we get a permanent easement. So theoretically, we could go put one there now, but we'd have to pull it out 5 years from the date this was filed. So it doesn't make any sense without getting a permanent easement.
Or we could correct the error where it says temporary. And then we could
Okay.
maintain it.
Again.
I think that's what we're talking about. It's taking.
It seems so simple to me.
Yeah.
Well,
We
you
don't
could do it
own,
was
we
just,
don't own it.
and again, you're
Motion
assuming there's an error.
of
There's a lot of disputes of whether there was an error. And I know you think there is, and fair enough, you're entitled to your opinion, but I think it's a hard argument to make.
Well, it wasn't an error. It was done deliberately. I think that's one. What the easements, there was no easement retained deliberately.
Oh,
It may not have been the best.
oh, yeah, no, that's true.
Right, it may have been a
I agree. with
error
that.
of judgment or something, but it was done deliberately. It wasn't a mistake in the paperwork. It was just,
I think she's thinking of a different error.
well, I thought the same thing. It would be great if we could just do whatever made sense. If there was still an easement there, but I think I'm convinced that
There is no.
there is no easement now.
And I think it's very clear that the intent, was to narrow the road.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where Stan Tech came. It said it's actually safer area now.
Right, I think I take issue with the 8 feet narrower versus 2 or 3 feet, which was, I don't think, certainly well thought of. I think Stan Tech came in at the end just trying to justify the lot lines, quite frankly. I don't see that. And I think there were errors. Hayes, I think, did make some errors in the square footage calculations. They should have not included the square footage of the road in the buildable square footage. I think that forced us into this easement question about buildable square footage versus not buildable square footage. Again, I don't think that's either here nor there if we want to actually get a sidewalk built.
I think that should be the priority.
Exactly, and we have two options, right? It's narrow the road or obtain an easement.
I think we can all agree on that. I think.
I mean.
Well, there's also-
We all,
Well, there's also how much do we narrow the road? I think that's a question too.
That is. You know, and I think it would be really helpful though, to hear from Stantec.
Yeah, so there is a plan that's been done. I don't know how it was presented. I know I saw the one meeting where Tony was going through the RFP process and he presented it. I don't know in what other forums that was actually presented. I don't think it was actually even presented by Stantec to.
I don't think Stantec has ever talked directly to the residents of Nahant. I don't think they've had that opportunity.
But it's not signed. I mean, it just looks like a sketch.
Yep. It wasn't formally accepted. It was a proposal.
That's how it was, was presented to me as a proposal.
So I just want to make my position clear. I reject that plan. I oppose that plan. If you look at the new curb, it would put the new curb right in the center of the existing travel lane. So I think that's way too narrow. We can, 2 or 3 feet may be inappropriate with lane reduction, but I think that particular plan is just it's not a fitting plan for that road.
If we're thinking of putting the sidewalk in along Castle Road to where it becomes Goddard, are we intending also to maintain it?
It would be our sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah,
We would take that either by the taking or using the land that already belongs to us.
Does it taking sound like a purchase?
Right.
Eminent domain?
And one and the same.
You could take it in fee, but that would dilute the size of the lots, but you take it in easement, the lots will remain the same size. An easement is just a right to cross property.
Well,
You take it in
it's an
fee.
agreement between two parties. Has the other party agreed to that?
For taking?
Uh-huh.
No,
No.
just take it. I mean, it's pretty draconian, but that's just the way the domain works.
Right.
If you have a proper public purpose, you just take it and but you have to pay.
But it also might be easier, yeah, if they have mortgages, then we have to negotiate with the mortgage company too, so it may just be easier to do a taking for everyone. Rather than try to get the mortgage company to sign off on the lot size
Yeah,
reduction.
would it make sense to take one plot, make it one?
So it would be 4 feet wide of sidewalk and it wouldn't reduce the width of the road in any way?
Not if we take property along Castle Road, the road would remain the same. Because we're taking an easement from the property as it exists today. So there would be no Stantec issue. It would not be that. Easement would be in the solar properties.
So Castle Road along that portion of it would still be 33 feet wide.
32, 33, whatever.
Pardon?
I think it's 33, but yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
yes.
And there would be no setback issue as far as that large
No,
property.
not for an easement.
Basically right on the street.
That would not be
Yeah,
acceptable.
no setback issue. Good.
Can I raise another point?
Sure.
Once we're here. It was important to have a sidewalk from Castle down to God on the north.
For the school,
Side.
Castle down to Goddard, okay.
Castle,
is on along the Johnson School sidewalk.
no.
No,
Oh.
the other,
End of Castle to God,
Oh, to the,
so you're on Gardner Road now.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
because so many people walk there. From the other part of town. They use
There's
Bailey
only,
Hill.
okay, but there's only one sidewalk on Tri Mountain, and that's on the opposite side from Bailey's Hill, right?
Right,
So,
but if you look at the drawing that the committee did, they did want a sidewalk. And that they thought there should be a sidewalk on the other side, on the side of God.
So I just want to point out that from what I can tell, the town did retain about 2 feet off of the pavement on Goddard. So I think that's certainly not, 3 feet is really bare minimum for a sidewalk. So we may be a foot off on that, but it's not quite as,
Well, it only
Big.
includes one more house. I mean, one more.
right, but two lots, right? And well, we haven't even talked about Goddard. This is really focused on Castle Road, but that's another that's a whole nother project. Goddard Road reconstruction. and stuff.
Importantly, Castle Road right now.
And if that's option number one, is taking, is there an option number two?
Oh, of course, that would be the Stantec plan,
That would be narrowing.
narrowing.
Ah,
Oh, there's actually a third option.
pardon?
There's actually a third option.
Oh, okay.
We go with one sidewalk.
Yeah, not rebuilding.
There's an awful lot of streets in the house that only have one sidewalk, so, I mean, it's not illegal to go that way, I'm not recommending it, I'm not advocating for it, I'm just identifying it as a third option.
But it should be on the same side as the school. The sidewalk.
Well, the interesting thing there is that, yes, and I agree with you to a certain degree, but the town would still own the sidewalk that extends from the entrance to the school parking lot and extends up to the first lot. So that remains the same. And I'm thinking about fire drills. And that's where the kids assemble after a fire drill. It's on that stretch. So that would still be available and there would be a crosswalk on each end so that people could cross over to. As it kind of is now. Just a thought. So what's our next step look like?
I was just gonna ask you.
Obviously, if we were to go with the narrowing, I believe that could be accomplished through chapter 90 funds. So that's minimal expense to the town. And if we were to go with the taking, we would be incurring legal expense plus reimbursement for the value of the land that we take. And I don't think any of us can predict what that is.
I'm sorry.
I don't think anyone could predict what that cost will be. I know the loss.
So I estimated at 300, actually 275,000, but I added $100,000 buffer to it. So I would estimate of, like, I'm trying to remember how many, I think it was a 4-foot taking, was in the 275 to 375 range, all inclusive legal costs. But of course, if the landowners don't agree, then
the legal costs continue.
the legal, yeah.
That meter continues.
Or we could just bump out around their property.
Or, some landowners just donate it. They'll just,
Right.
they'll just donate it.
Yeah, but there will still be some legal costs.
Oh, that's true.
Legality.
I think Tom has another question.
There might be another option, but I really don't know enough about it, but. Since the deeds don't reference the A&R drawing, it's Mass General Law, Chapter 4181Y, I think, says that the deeds then become suspect or revocable.
That would be a lot of legal costs, I think.
That would be.
Yeah, you're gonna get a big fight over that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Copeland took that in consideration. Can't imagine he wouldn't.
Well, I'd just like to see something. What the
That's a shared question. Right.
It seems like it would be a lot more expensive than a taking, I think, quite frankly. That's at least my evaluation of that.
Well,
I can't
You
even
mentioned
imagine
that
that
option.
alternative.
I mentioned the Stantec option, so.
Right.
What statute, you cited 4181Y, but you said, what makes it illegal for it not to be referenced in there?
Because it's not the true A&R, it just says.
It is the true A&R. It is. The A&R never changed.
Those are two different drawings.
The A&R, again, it only involves frontage. That's it. Anything else is beyond the A&R purview.
So the planning board could tell the registry of deeds, we did not, this is a changed plot plan and object to the 2024 plan. I don't think that's a good way. That could certainly kick off issues,
Many issues.
but I don't think that's where we want to be.
No, I was just curious, something that picked up in this sort of.
Once again, I think our focus is on getting us a sidewalk on Castle Road. That seems to be the primary concern. I agree with it 100%. We certainly should do everything we can to do that. Cost is going to be a factor in any town meeting. So I think the next step is to get Stantec in here and have them talk more about safety requirements that they've addressed. Any concerns that they might have as far as not measuring up to all safety requirements as on a state and federal or whatever basis that their proposal might not address. Are there any engineering issues that need to be we need to be concerned with? To really get an idea or a better idea of what their proposal looks like. I think that would be my recommendation for our next step.
But, I mean, do we have those monies budgeted? I mean, it sounds like that it could start getting us into a design process, which.
I am in favor of having a public presentation by Stantec of the plan that they did. I don't think that's ever been done. And I do think that that's worthwhile to have the actual engineer come in and.
And we could ask this question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that we could ask them.
It would alleviate a lot of confusion.
I think so. I mean, I think that we have, obviously, the immediate neighbors are very firm and very fair in their concerns. I think the explanation, the whole issue needs to be explained to the entire town. And I recommend that we start that conversation with Stantec.
So Stantec would be addressing safety and design,
Say, yeah,
not the legality of it.
oh, absolutely. They're all part of the same thing.
They
Safety
can
and
address
design.
the 1941 layout. Absolutely, because part of their due diligence is the title search. So they would have done. So they can, I think they can talk.
As far as Stantec is, or,
Yeah, Stantec, they would all do their due diligence, including title searches,
Right.
Stantec and the Hayes, the
okay.
federal government. So yeah, they can address that.
So just for an example, in the Stantec diagram, there's a mention of their design meeting NFPA 1 requirements. That has to do with the ability to have first responders get into the area. They said that the reduced plan is not going to impact our ability to bring fire equipment through that area, do what's necessary as far as backing and turning and things like that. They've got all the room they need. And I will also mention again that I talked with Chief Antrim, and he agrees. He's not worried about the narrowing per se. So it basically, for me, if we're going to go to the town at any point and ask for funding to take that land, we should be able to explain how that is necessary, because we can't safely do this work. Our experts say that we cannot safely do this work without taking this additional land. Otherwise, I think that we're just basically going to the town and saying, we'd rather do it this way. I think we need to be stronger than that. I think we need to be able to make an argument that from safety reasons, measurable safety reasons, it needs to be done in this alternative way where we're doing a taking. That's just my opinion. But I think that's where we need to be.
Well, and I just want to point out, I think it's a 2/3 majority for a taking. I think you
I
could,
believe that's true.
yeah, so
So the ladders, the hill is that much steeper.
we do need to make sure that there's support for this.
If that's the direction we decide to go,
If that's the direction we decide to go.
right?
Yeah.
I think we need to gather all the facts.
Yeah, everything that I'm throwing out right now is just a warning that it's a steep hill to climb just from a financial standpoint. If we're looking at one alternative that can be funded through Chapter 90 funds, and another one that basically is going to take 200,000.
Right, but we do have the proceeds from the Coast Guard housing,
Still town money.
which can go towards this.
Yes.
And I think that would be.
I agree with that.
appropriate
Yeah, I
use
understand
of
that.
this. I wouldn't, this is not a Prop 2.5 over. This is,
No,
we have capital.
I get it.
Money.
There's funding there for it.
Right.
But there's a balance.
Right.
And for getting support from, say, the finance committee, I think that's gonna be an uphill climb.
Yeah, No, but I think there's also, I mean, there are utility issues. There's the fire hydrant on the corner there that would need to be relocated, and that's probably 20-30,000 itself.
I think that's gotta go either way, doesn't it? Oh, if we took the land maybe.
Yeah, if we take back investment for the fire
Okay.
hydrant, so. I don't know about the utility poles themselves. I think that's a question I have because it's, that's outside of the town easement.
I
I think the Stantec plan has relocate on the plan, so.
don't remember seeing that. That could be. I'll check.
Again, an average, I consider myself an average person, looking at the Stantec plan, it makes no sense to me. So I would appreciate a presentation
Yeah,
of it
presentation.
by the engineer.
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it. That'll be the next step. We can do that, get some public opinion as a result of it, and then get together again. Does that sound good?
As the next step, yes. Oh, and to maintain the road the same width it is now.
There is that option still on the table.
No, it doesn't, the Stantec plan. Oh, it's based on the sidewalk in and narrow the road.
Yes.
Oh,
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
so that's narrowing the road.
That plan narrows the road, whereas the taking does not narrow the road.
Okay,
Or narrows it less.
Narrows it less. Okay.
it would be informative to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get Stantec in, the public can watch it, ask questions possibly if there's time. But also start getting some feedback, I don't know, possibly through Allison as far as recommendations or whatever, so that we can start assembling some information as far as the broader public. And hopefully we'll be able to get the whole town involved in this. So that we're making sure that everyone understands, that it's not an easy project to do. There's money involved one way or the other, more on one side than the other. Lot to talk about here, but we have to understand, everybody has to understand the issue, so that's bringing Stantec in.
I
Okay,
can coordinate that, yep.
okay,
Yes.
okay. We good? For now? Awesome.
Good.
Right. I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Oh, we could do that, sure.
The Ken Carangelo, 81 Willow Road. Two things. I want to ask about the 33 feet. The current measurement on Castle Road from the stone wall opposite the lots to the fence is 28 feet. Just a guy with a tape measure. I'm not a surveyor, but it's 28 feet. Including the sidewalk, including the curb, including the asphalt, all the way to the fence on the other side. Goddard is obviously its own thing, and on Castle, it's 28 feet. So something happened to that sliver of the public way, or the public road, at some point in this 50-something year planning process, but it is not today 33 feet. So I would encourage whether it's Stantec or whoever to go verify that, because it does affect the map of, everything else. And the second point that I would just raise is that, well, yet whatever it takes to resolve this, and looking back at the discussion that took place in that town meeting, the public discussion did not talk about sidewalks, it didn't talk about this, it was like, here's that plan, let's do it. There was probably an assumption that, yes, this will on the sidewalk, but it's not clear in that vote. So, I would suggest at this point we don't have to call it an error again, but it's an oversight or it's a development, it's something that was not foreseen at the time. And that just needs to be corrected. And from that perspective, it's one more expense in this overall project. And I think that's a justification to use some of the proceeds to actually pay for what should have happened ideally in the first place. No one had done this before, Tony hadn't done this before, this was, it was there was a lot of learning happening at the time, which is fine, but it's 2020 hindsight. I think we're all trying to get this corrected and into a state that everybody's happy.
Thank you.
He raises a point. We were gonna talk about lessons learned. Would it be easier for us to maybe write some of those down and just decide when we
Yeah.
discuss them?
Sure. Mr. Barba.
Peter Barber, 22 Emerald Road. If I recall, the wording from town meeting 2021, basically said that all costs associated with the project should be paid with proceeds. So to Ken's point, I don't think Dan might be able to throw some legal at it, but it sounds to me like we would be required to use that money as part of this being part of that project. So that's what it's worth.
Thank you.
Yep, Kirby Bonds, 22 Breezy, Hill Terrace, I'm gonna agree with both of them and say it, you owe it to us to use that money. To fix these sidewalks.
Anyone out there on the big board?
There's someone who had a question earlier. I don't know if she's still on.
Oh, that's right. Questions for our audience, raise your hand and we'll let you speak, I'll give you a chance. Maybe good. Okay. Now we're walking to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting at
Second.
7:37 p.m.
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Thank you, Harris. Aye.
Matt O'Reilly, aye.
Rock to the line. Big board, you're.
Aye.
And I, okay, awesome, very good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.